a question showed up on the YouTube channel, and this is the question, and I replied to the question by telling the questioner that I would answer it in the next video, which is this. And the question is this: if I am not my mind, do I control it? Do I control my intention? If I am awareness, do I control my intention if I am awareness? Do I control anything about this direct experience of the body and the mind? Interesting question, good question. This question is an invitation to ignore the truth, right? So what do I mean by that? Let me read the question again. If I am not my mind, do I control it? Do I control my intention? If I am awareness, do I control anything about this direct experience of the body and mind? So I say the question is an invitation to ignore the truth. See what happens when you get into things like this is the personality tries to create side streets. You know, well, what about this? Well, no, but how about that, right? But here's the deal, right? And this is one of the things that Angelo brings up that I think is very important. You know, other than meditation, what is the most powerful process that you can involve yourself in that will allow for the truth to reveal itself?
Take a psychedelic?
No.
Self-inquiry.
Self-inquiry, thank you. See, you do have an answer, right? And what does self-inquiry allow us to do?
Realize the truth of who we are.
Well, how does it do that?
By investigating, by asking, who am I?
Okay. So in this question then, if I am not the mind, do I control it? Given the understanding that you just expressed, how do you answer that question? So you see, the answer to this question is obvious and simple, but notice how it wasn't so obvious and simple when you entertained it. Huh? Who's asking the question? How could it be more obvious than that? If I am not the mind, do I control the mind? Do you see, this is the personality trying to get in control. Or they want to know the answer. Can I control my mind? Please tell me, right? But it doesn't solve anything to answer that question, right? The only thing that solves anything is to use self-inquiry. Who's asking that question? And if who's asking that question is seen not to exist, is seen not to be real, so we can just cross that part out, right? So we just take out the part of all the I's. We take all the I's out, right? So now if I am not my mind, we take the my out too, right? Now the question doesn't make any sense, does it? So maybe the question inside the question is, who am I? Because if you take all those things out, if you take all of the identification with the idea of being the person or the personality out, then how do you deal with the answer about control? Because now the question about can I control something is no longer valid because we take the I out. There's no I. So now how do you answer the question about control? I want to know, how do you deal with the question about control?
What was the original question?
If I am not the mind, do I control the mind? But wait a minute, remember, in the process of answering the question, we're going to apply inquiry here. We're going to inquire into this, right? And when we inquire into this and we look at this question with the idea of self-inquiry, which is, who is this I, right? And when you pursue the question of who is this I and you actually try and find this I, there is none to be found. So let's take that out. That's not real. That doesn't exist. Once you take that out, now how do you answer the question about control? Because there's no I to control anything now. That we're saying that I is an illusion, so we're not going to deal with it. So then how do you answer the question of control? But the thing is this, what this allows is the possibility of seeing that the answer to the question is when you step out of the way, right? When you stop being God, right? Then control returns to where it always was. And the control that returns to where it always was manifests itself in as awareness paying attention to what's happening. And when awareness pays attention to what's happening, it changes because of the light of awareness on it, right? So when you pay attention to something and it changes in the direction. So let's talk about controlling the mind, since that
How does awareness pay attention?
it's a mystery.
Okay.
But it happens. It does happen, right? So you can pay attention, you can put your attention. And if you pay attention to something with awareness, in the light of that awareness, whatever it makes contact with that's inconsistent with the truth disappears. Do you follow that?
Not exactly.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, when you pay attention to the way that you continue to identify yourself as a personality, when you pay attention to that, right? When you watch it, and people in this room have done that, you know, where you have had enough of a sense of yourself as the awareness to be able to watch the personality, right? And in the light of awareness, when you watch the personality, right, the personality dissolves. That's right. And if that woman is enlightened, she understands she's not having a baby. The baby's having her. Try and tell, you know, you can't. See, that's the interesting thing about this. You know, you live in the illusion that you have things, that you do things, right? But that's an appearance. That's not happening at all. I mean, really, if you actually look at that particular situation, a woman having a baby, that's the language you use to describe what we're seeing. And when we describe it with that language, it's not an accident. We're saying that's what's happening. She's having a baby, right? But if you look closer and you get outside the language, that's not what's happening. She's not having anything. Right? See what I'm saying? She's not having anything. That's all language. What's happening is the baby is birthing. And he's having her as its parent. Or she's having her as his parent. That's closer to the truth, see? So this stuff that we're working with, you know, it can be pretty sticky, right? So, but that's not a problem if you just keep paying attention, because attention is the light that burns the lies. Attention melts the lies. If you put attention on something that's not true, what's not true can't stand the light of the truth. It will dissolve because it doesn't really exist in the first place. It's seen for what it is, which is an appearance. Fine, right? See, that's the thing where people get confused. You can say that an appearance is not real, right? But you can't be complete about that in terms of how you relate to it unless you also include it is a real appearance. The appearance isn't real, and it's a real appearance. So you have to deal with it, right? Even though it's an appearance, you have to deal with it, because we all share agreements about these appearances not just being appearances, don't we?
So what we think is a truth is really just our belief.
If it is a belief, but you can't think the truth. So in a sense, that's the case, right? You can't think the truth. That's why we say no thoughts are true, because you can't think the truth. The truth is non-conceptual, right? Now, but here's the thing, and this is what this is all about. You can't think, see, when we talk like that, it's like the personality is trying to really get this, right? You can't think the truth because the truth is non-conceptual, right? And the truth is the heart of the matter here, is it not, right? The truth shall set you free. You can't think the truth, but check it out. You can't think the truth, but you are that truth. How much more power do you want? Right? You can't think the truth, but you are that truth. And that truth is divine. That truth is divine. And when you get out of the way, you have absolute control, because your word and God's word are the same word. You know what I'm saying?
So there is
You'll get over it. See, all you have to do is stay the course. All you have to do is stay the course. Keep paying attention to what's going to the mental activity, and keep paying attention, to the feelings and all that, right? But also keep paying attention to the truth. And if you do that, what's not real can't stand the light of the truth, and it'll fall away. This is what you hear people describe when it comes to being awake. See, that's what I'm saying. If you slow down and you really look closely at things, there's nothing hidden. There's nothing that's a secret. It's not hidden. All you have to do is look. But how many of us do? How many of us really look? Instead of just following the gerbil wheel, just following the patterns, following the neural patterns, following the emotional patterns, following the patterns of the personality, all the familiar territory. So, all you have to do is be patient, be diligent, persist, trust the truth. And in regard to your individual process, I challenge you to answer the question, are you committed to awakening? I challenge you to answer the question. Because the personality's will do anything to avoid the answer to that question. But I really want to stay with that. I really want you to stay with that question and ask yourself, am I committed to awakening? Not like, am I interested in it? Not, am I hoping it'll happen? But am I committed to awakening? If I understand and realize that this means everything, that this is the key to happiness, that this is the solution to suffering, if I understand that, and if I understand the reality of it is that it's already the case, which makes it available, doesn't it? But then the question is, but are you committed to awakening? That's right. That's why they say in the highest teachings in Buddhism, relax. That's the teaching. Relax. Why? There's nothing to get upset about. Whether you understand it or not, there's nothing to get upset about. So relax. There's no death. So if you're afraid of death, relax. What's happening is a direct result of the condition in which people consider themselves to be separate from one another and different from one another, and that's a problem. Because then it's a matter of, well, who's bigger, who's stronger, who's got the most, all that stuff, right? It's a condition. So what's happening is in a direct expression of the condition, right, that exists, that's causing that to happen. And bear with me here, right? But from an awareness perspective, it's good. It's good, because how far up the ass does humanity have to have the truth shoved for it to wake up? You understand? How bad does it have to get for people to wake up? Not just in terms of humanity, but in terms of our personal lives. You know what I mean? If you can see clearly and realize that you're the source of your own suffering, how bad does it gotta get for you to stop? See? And in the world reality, it's an interesting reality in the sense that it's getting worse all the time, right? And if there's a function, and there is a function to how bad it's getting, because it's intended to be a wake-up call. It's intended to make it painful enough for humanity to start to consider some other alternatives, just like it is for somebody in your personal life, right? So that's the way it is. That's what's happening. And if there is a success, there's some indication that there's some consciousness that's coming online because of this, right? Do you notice that the relationship to war is different than it used to be? It is. The relationship to war is different than it used to be. It's less acceptable than it was in the past, right? It's less acceptable. That's an indication that consciousness is evolving. Now the question is, will it evolve fast enough, right, to keep us from destroying ourselves? So then you have to deal with that, right? Not only in terms of yourself as a personality, but in terms of yourself as humanity too, right? It's like that saying said that the question is, it was a very good saying. it's a race between education and tragedy. It's a race between education and tragedy. And it depends on who you're listening to. A lot of scientists are telling us this is over already. This is over, right? And there's a lot of indication that that's the case. But on the other hand, we who know about awakening know that miracles are possible, right? So it's never over till it's over. So we'll see. But in the meantime, you know, it's a question of, see, you can look at it in terms of the general situation in the world, war, politics, the whole 9 yards, right? But then if you take that and you bring it down to your life, where's the wars at for you in your life? See, where's the wars at? Because that's how the condition is expressing itself for you in your life. Get that cleaned up and you might be heading in the right direction. You might be helping the cause. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, and in the meantime, you'll be happy. Good deal. Good deal. It's not an illusion for society. That goes back to what I said before, right? It's not an illusion unless it's an illusion. For society, control is a real thing. It's not an illusion. That's why it's such a big deal who's in control. That's why it's such a big deal who's in control, because it's real. By most of humanity, it seemed to be real, right? And that illusion will end up killing us unless we wake up.